Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the Risk Matrix with
The
James
risk
Junkin.
matrix.
He loves to say that. The Risk Matrix with James Junkin and myself, Dr. Martin, and this is our third episode. Today, we're going to talk about burnout in the safety profession and some things that maybe, well, suggestions from James and I, at least, of what you can do about it and how to connect with people in order to make your job a little bit less stressful, or at least to manage the stress that you have. Let's get into it, James. Let's talk about burnout in the safety profession.
Man, I've experienced that.
Are you experiencing it right now?
I'm tired, but I'm not
Yeah.
burnt out. But I can understand. And there was an article in this month's Professional Safety Journal. I don't know if everybody knows this or not. I serve as part of the editorial review board committee. And so I love Professional Safety Journal and appreciate all the authors that submit their manuscripts to us, because that's where a lot of us go to learn. And the article was entitled Burnout. And I got to thinking about all the people that I come into contact with in the safety profession and the frustration that many have. And I thought about my career, and I thought about some of the things the consultants that work with me on a daily basis, some of their frustrations and stress levels. And it can be very stressful being a safety professional. I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
I have. I think the biggest thing that I try to do when it comes to the job, or when it comes to the kind of things that you and I do, because we're not so much in the field anymore. We're thinking about accident incident investigation, looking at the fatality things that you look at, and doing those types of litigation work. But there is burnout, and it's associated with, why are these accidents and incidents continuing to happen? Why are people not listening? Why am I giving recommendations that fall on deaf ears? Why? And I found the best way to kind of combat that is to talk to other professionals like yourself, right? And there are other solutions as well, right? There's mindfulness practices that have become kind of in vogue in the safety profession. For our workers, these are things that we should be practicing ourselves. I mean, what are some of the ways that you kind of combat some of the frustrations and things that you see?
Well, I'll say this from personal experience. The hardest thing for me to do is to stop working. Now, I don't know if that's a character flaw. My wife will tell you it is. My family will tell you it is. There is a lot of sacrifice of personal time when you're a safety professional, particularly a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never away from it. I'm never
phone rings all the time.
My phone. Okay. You have to come up with some sort of work-life balance. I'm not the best example of that. Okay. I'm just not.
You're not.
I'm
You're
not.
not.
But that creates stress. I can't tell you the number of meals that we've gone out to a restaurant and I've had to step outside and speak on the phone with a client.
You've been on the road with your wife and had to pull over and take several conference calls. I know this about you.
I've done that. I have done that. Probably the worst it was one time I was traveling on Mother's Day, and my wife fell down the stairs here at our home and broke her leg. And I was on the phone with her when it happened. And it was awful. It was awful. And I felt so guilty. And with guilt comes stress, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you balance that? How do you separate work and put it down? And I struggle with that. Because I want to do a good job. I understand the seriousness of doing this, but at the same time, you've got to set some boundaries. So what I've tried to do to reduce my own personal stress and to realize that am I working to live or living to work is I try to set some time for personal time, for me time, for family time, that barring a serious injury or fatality that I have to deal with right then. That's just the life of being a consultant.
Mhm.
Work will be here the next day.
Yeah.
I try to have a cutoff time daily to say, I'm not working past this time. Because literally, we're all busy. And it's not just consultants. Safety professionals who work for companies have a lot of demands on their time too. You know, they've got training, they've got investigations to do, they've got to go out and fill out pre-qualification stuff, manage third-party verification deals, go into the field, conduct audits, get people drug tested, all these things that go on all the time, site inspections, etc. It's easy to carry that home with you. So I set a time where I just say I'm done. And usually it's
Yeah.
about 6 p.m., 6:30, no later than 7 o'clock.
And then you're up again at 5:30. What I will say is, I mean, you're kind of talking from a consultant's point of view, right? Because your phone rings all the time as a consultant. You're working for several different companies. People are calling on you to assist them, right? When they're stressed or in need and those types of things. For people in companies, and you know, I've been a safety director in companies way back when, before I was a consultant and an academic. And I will say this, your systems will save you. Okay. And by that, I mean, you know, you can either run from thing to thing and just, you know, run like a chicken with your head chopped off and you know, make decisions on the fly and change things on the fly. But overall, if you have systems in place of how you're going to manage the work, you're going to manage drug testing, you know, every other Monday or every other week at some time. You're going to look at policies, right? And these are things that you can set aside in your day or in your schedule, you know, by week, by month, those types of things. And if they get interrupted, that's okay, but you have some type of a normalcy to, you know, how you're going to approach the job. I think that helps with stress a lot, especially when you're in a you know, a sole company.
You know, I would agree with all that. Making things about processes, not necessarily about people, has been something that's been part of quality management and production, particularly in the manufacturing industry, going back many years, right? From which we got the PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. Well, for safety professionals, sometimes we forget the plan part. And it's a lot of the do. It's reactive, reactive. And if you can have a schedule and schedule your work and build a safety management system, your life will be a lot easier. It'll also be more efficient for your organization and require less man hours, less energy, less personnel to manage the system than it is to try to be in a reactive mode all the time. Now, I want you to respond to this, though. I hear this a lot. I get a lot of phone calls from instructors I've trained that are Veriforce authorized instructors and other safety professionals that I meet. And perhaps you get this too. They get extremely frustrated because they know what the right thing to do is, but they can't get their management team to do it.
You know, I've given different opinions on this depending on who's asked and what the situation is, right? Um, it's really hard sometimes to make a decision that centers around your own health and wellness and the company, right? And it's essential as a safety professional to really care about the workers and the things that they're doing and the hazards they're exposed to. But if you can't make a change with management, you're never going to make a change, and it might be a time to change your job. Now, people aren't going to like that, right? They're going to say that's giving up or whatever, but you have to take the job and look at it. Are you the right person, right? Are you the right person for this management team? Is this something that's untenable to work with, right? So there's that portion. But then I will also say that people focus a lot of their professional development on technical skills when they should be focusing their professional development on leadership and change management and project management, right? One of the best things that I ever did for myself was to get the PMP certification, because it talks about lean concepts and quality management and all the things that help you make inroads with management, right? Because they're not particularly concerned about safety. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe it's a component of what they do. But when you start talking quality and productivity and how that weaves in, and again, forms the mesh with your safety program, you will probably be able to make a change, right? And acknowledge that just because you have a degree in safety doesn't mean you are a leader, right? And that you have to cultivate those skills in order to lower your stress levels, one, to see forward movement, which also lowers stress levels, right? If you see that people are working with you, that you're creating your core team. And we talked about this on the previous episode. We talked about, you can't do this job alone. And if you're doing the job alone, yes, there's going to be stress. There's going to be frustration. There's going to be, how do I manage this? The workload is just too much. But if you form a team upward and a team downward within your organizational culture, which we'll get to on another episode. But if you form that, your stress is going to be lowered, guaranteed. So, the suggestion, I said, look, sometimes you have to quit. I'm not afraid to say that, because sometimes you can't make a difference, but sometimes the problem is you. Sometimes the problem is you. And so if you really want to make a difference in that company and you don't want to quit and you want to make inroads, then what can you do to lower your stress through cultivating other skills that are going to help you break the shield?
And I think that's great advice. I would say it's a rarity that the problem is executive management doesn't care about its workers. I've dealt with too many fatalities to where I've seen the impact on the CEOs personally, right? So it's not that they don't care. Sometimes it's we're not speaking in a language that they understand. So your point is well taken. And I love this book. It's a leadership book by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. It's called Extreme Ownership. And basically what it's about, if you want to be a leader and you want people to follow you, take responsibility. Take responsibility. So if you're feeling all this pressure, you're feeling all this stress, stop, back up, and look at what you can change in what you're doing, and not necessarily saying all the time, my boss is a jerk, the guys are idiots, nobody will listen to me. What can I change to be a more effective safety professional? But there does.
What can I change to lower my stress, right?
Yeah.
I think of, I've read Jocko's book, and I think of extreme ownership as you're almost taking in the energy around you, which can be your stress. And if you hold it here, then it's yours. It's all yours. But if you take it and mold it to the situation, the people that you're working with, the team, and you push it outwards, right? So that the ownership becomes shared, that can lower your stress. But serious burnout in the safety profession it's a thing, right?
It's a thing.
One of the best things you can do, you just did this. You went to a conference and you talked to other safety professionals, right? You made connections with other safety professionals. You've enhanced your phone a friend network. There are people out there that are willing to listen. I take calls all the time, and I know you do too, from people who are stressed. They have a problem that they're trying to work through, and it just takes somebody else to kind of help you vent a little bit and look at the problem from a different angle.
I'll add on to that. Social media has been a great networking tool. It's also a terrible networking tool. You better have thick skin on social media. So I see this all the time, and I'm always like, don't be that guy. Somebody will post a question, and then everybody ridicules the person, or a lot of people ridicule the person for even asking the question, or go to Google, or blah, blah, blah. look, if you can see through that, there are some good people that are on social media that will respond to you and give you some tips. Find some people to follow that are respectful. Hopefully, subscribe here and hit that like button on our YouTube channel for the Risk Matrix, because we're always here to help. We're here to help because people helped us. Find a resource for mentorship where you can talk through problems and issues that you have at work. But I'll say this. I've stayed at organizations early in my career out of loyalty when they weren't loyal back, and they weren't going to be loyal back, right? There comes a time where you've done everything you can. It's time to move on. And that's hard because you're leaving a job, going to something else, change, family dynamics, maybe even having to relocate, maybe even getting out of one industry into another. That's part of this profession. Nobody goes and works for an organization anymore for 25, 30 years. You don't come out of college or come out of trade school or switch from being a frontline leader into being a safety professional later in your career and stay at a company for 30 years and get a gold watch at the end. Most people I know have already worked at 4 or 5 different jobs or for different organizations, maybe across a lot of different industries. That's just part of being a safety professional. But find mentors, find things to do away from work, and realize this. Safety professionals mostly have no authority from a line perspective. When you go to school, they'll tell you you're a staff position, right? You're a staff function. If you relate it to military, you're not a line function. So you're not out there commanding troops. You're advising.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I try to, my advice to safety professionals when they're interviewing, that they tell the organization up front, safety is not my job. Safety is operations job. I'm here to coach you. I'm here to train you. I'm here to help you craft your policies and procedures. I'm here to help you identify hazards and risk, but I can't be their safety mom and dad. I can't do it. Because
A lot of us do that, though. A lot of that because we care.
The vast majority of safety professionals I know are working themselves crazy.
Yep.
They take it home. They feel it. They worry. And it's back to something you said earlier. If you have good systems in place, then you don't have to worry, right? Because the system is resilient. It can take a blow without falling apart. So it's back to what Conklin threw out there one time: is safety the absence of injuries or accidents, or is it the presence of barriers and defenses? And you know, that's a topic for a whole nother show. But what he's really saying is, do I have a dynamic, resilient system in place where if people make mistakes, they fail, but they fail safely? If you have that, a lot of the stress goes away.
Or they don't fail. If you have a system in place, you might take a hit and you may deflect down a little bit, but your system is going to improve, right? And that's the concept of being anti-fragile, kind of, is that you're hitting that wall or you're hitting that incident and there's a deflection down, but really the overall deflection is up, is you've built a stronger system, and next time there won't be a hit, or the hit will be smaller and the deflection will be smaller. So you know, I'm back to systems. I think you have your systems in place that helps with not being burnt out. You take your own darn advice, right? You're telling everybody to get sleep, not be fatigued, you know, do wellness opportunities, exercise, all those things. Those are things that you should be doing. And you know, a lot of guys that are on the road or gals that are on the road are going to say, I don't have time for that. You know, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to have time for other people. So the advice is, as James said, you know, put a cutoff on it, put the systems in place, have a stop where you stop. And, you know, the other thing is making good decisions about what is emergent and urgent, and what can be dealt with tomorrow, or what can you do to engage your team to help you reduce the stress on the system, reduce the stress on you, reduce the stress on the people, and move forward.
Delegation is a great thing. So if I am managing the safety system and I'm not in the safety system, meaning I'm not trying to do it all, and I can get my management team, my frontline supervisors to embrace the organizational culture, right? Then my job's a lot easier and I'm just coaching people. But if
Mhm.
not, I'm running around putting out fires all the time, all the time, all the time. That creates a lot of stress. You know,
And I don't like the word delegation. I
really,
like Yeah, I don't because delegation means that I have a bunch of things on my plate and this is just me. The connotation is I'm giving it to you and now you deal with it. Where I would tend to say, and again, this is wordsmithing, I'm going to cede ownership to you because you're more qualified or more in tune with what's going on in order to own that task. Right. And that goes back to Jocko's book about extreme ownership. You're owning everything, but you are recognizing that people are capable around you to cede the ownership of certain parts of the system to make it work. I
I,
don't
you,
like delegation.
I, I'll go along with that. I'll go along with that. Ceding ownership. I like that. Um,
It's
it's
semantics, right?
basic.
But
It's the basic premise of effective leadership. I have to get my team involved because the team is more powerful than a single individual. And I guess that's my point. As a safety
mhm,
professional, yeah, you're there about compliance and regulations and stuff, but at the same time, you're a leader building a cohesive team. That's your responsibility as a team. And in order to build a team, which is a whole nother episode, you have to cede some of your ownership of different activities to them. And
yep,
and look, that can be hard. That can be hard for a lot of doers, right? You want to go do. I used to tell people when I was younger, man, if I just do it myself. We'll just get rid of you and I'll do it myself. If you can't get this done,
yep,
blah, blah, and that's the wrong approach. How do we go about growing this person so that they can do more so I can do more, right?
mhm,
So if you're the only doer in the organization, you're taking all that responsibility on yourself and you're not sharing those opportunities. That's a source of stress. A great stress reliever in our organizations when I cede ownership / delegate to my
yep,
team and they take a project from beginning to end without a lot of instruction from me, just set the overall tactical mission. This is what I want you to do. Maybe tactical is not the right word. I give you a
I like tactical.
strategic vision. I give you a
Yep,
strategic vision of what you need to do, and then I'll let you come up with a plan on how you're going to tactically operate that and accomplish that mission. You'd be surprised how much ingenuity they have. So the greatest source of, I would say, success in safety is where a lot of safety professionals see what they perceive their greatest stress, and that's the people we work with, the folks in the.
mhm,
So engage
mhm.
those people. That's another frustration. I go out there, man. I'm trying to check on people, make sure they got the right PPE on. They're out there grinding with no face shield and all this stuff. Don't they care about their face? I care about their face and just all these things that I'm not being effective. Well, maybe the approach mechanism we're using is not effective, right?
Yep.
Maybe we need to redesign that. But burnout's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And I mean, so I'm just gonna recap. Engage other people. I hate to say this, use some of your budget to hire a consultant. If it's something you need help with, hire a consultant that knows how to do that or to help you, right? I mean, for an example, right? You're the audit guy. You do wonderful audits. You are very thorough and you're teaching other people to do them through your business, right? And a lot of that stress that we have can be dispersed through our networks. It can be dispersed through a consultant. It can be dispersed through other employees. It can be dispersed through workers. And so that's a really big stress reliever. But, in all things, in all things. Sometimes it's not the technical that you need. Sometimes it's the leadership, it's the management, it's the putting the systems in place and pulling everything together so that basically you're forming something that's resilient enough that you don't have to worry all the time about, when's the next thing going to happen. And that's all I got to say about that, James.
Find time to recharge. Professional development's a place to do it. Conferences are great. But if you can't, get on YouTube, man. I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, listen to podcasts. I travel a lot. You hear a lot of dead time out there. Put something meaningful on that helps you become a better you. Until next time, y'all get them workers home safe from high hazard jobs.
And while you're at it, go down, like, and follow our YouTube channel and put some comments in there. Tell us that we're wrong. Tell us that we're right. Tell us some things that you do for burnout, or that things that you agree with, or maybe there's things that we haven't talked about, but throw those in the comment section there, because we will be reading them, and they might be a topic for another show. So thanks for listening to the Risk Matrix with James Junkin,
Roll Tide,
Roll Tide, and Dr. Martin.